Sorry. Thank you. Thank you.
Would like to call to order the July 1st, 2024 Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners work session. Welcome, everyone. As you can see on the screen, Commissioner Shue is joining us virtually. We're glad you're with us. He had an opportunity to talk with him earlier today, and he is recuperating well from his recent surgery, so we look forward to having him back with us in person, hopefully at our next meeting if things go well. First up is the approval of the work session agenda. You all have a copy of that before you. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda with the changes on page 3? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say no. That motion passes. And we move to discussion items. First up, from Cooperative Extension, Youth Commissioner invitation to the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners Conference, and we're glad to have Molly Kleeman and guest.
Hello, how are you all this evening? Thank you for having us. This afternoon, I have Kavya, who will be our representative at the Cabarrus County at Youth Voice, and she has a little invitation that she made for you all. So,
yes. Greetings, distinguished representatives. I'm eager to be here tonight to encourage you to attend the 2024 North Carolina Association of County Commissioners Conference this year. I'm thrilled to be a Cabarrus County delegate at this event, and I'm honored to have this opportunity and to engage with county commissioners and other representatives across the state. My name is Kavya Saxena, and I'm a sophomore at Hickory Ridge High School in Harrisburg, North Carolina. First off, I would like to say I'm so excited to attend this event and see our county commissioners here. The Youth Voice Initiative provides opportunities for county commissioners to engage with the youth and foster leadership skills which are significant and, most importantly, teaches us to uphold the values of giving back to the community. These values go hand in hand with my passion, which is to impact the community positively and make a difference. I was really intrigued about how I could make a positive change and effect on our beloved community, so I looked into the Cabarrus County Youth Commission. The Youth Commission really stood out to me because ever since I was in middle school and was appointed the first Beta Club president, I saw the impact of volunteering. We also engaged in food drives that helped our community, and ever since then, I wanted to help give back. At my school, I organized many drives, including a toiletry, clothing, and toy drive, where we donated the items to the Salvation Army of Hope. When my esteemed coordinator, Molly Clement, notified me that I would be the selected delegate from Cabarrus County to participate this year in Youth Voice, I was extremely enthusiastic. I look forward to seeing you there. As an individual deeply invested in her community through collaborative, multifaceted operations in the spaces of socioeconomic equity, mental health, and food insecurity, in my role as a youth commissioner, I have gotten the opportunity to focus and impact our community on these topics. I look forward to sharing my thoughts and experiences with the elected officials in North Carolina at Youth Voice. Thank you for your time and your continued support for the Youth Commission and the youth in Cabarrus County. Thank you.
there you go. Does anyone have any questions for her?
No questions, but just thank you for that invitation, that presentation. You just made up my mind. I will be there.
All right.
And we always enjoy, usually it's a breakfast meeting where we join with our youth delegates, and it's always fun to brag about and show off our Cabarrus County representatives, and you will be exceptional, and we are so glad to have you representing Cabarrus County. Thank you.
No, thank you so much.
Thank you all for your time.
Okay. Okay, next up from Finance, fiscal year 2025 CIP financing, and we're happy to have Jim Howden with us for that item.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is a non-action item. This is just to keep the board informed of the process. We'll be going out for financing for the fiscal year 2025 capital projects, and we'll be using a draw program to do that. This will be the third draw program for Cabarrus County. We had a meeting last week, a group of us with the LGC, where we met and discussed how the draw program works. We also talked about our fixed financing that they have on their agenda for July and the purchase of the ACN building. Those conversations went really well. We did notify the LGC that we'll be filing an application with them next week for the draw program to be included on their August agenda. So as part of that process, per North Carolina General Statute 160A-20, we need to hold a public hearing before the board approves the resolution and any corresponding documentation. We plan to hold that public hearing at our July 16th board meeting. The draw program will be funding up to $270 million to be converted to permanent financing within 36 months of when that program starts. And as part of this agenda item, there's a list of those projects for your review, though I think you all saw when you approved the budget.
Okay, questions for Mr. Howden? I guess one question that I would ask, of course, we've talked about the draw program, and it has, as you mentioned, this will be the third time
Yes,
that
sir.
we have done that. That saves money as opposed to doing each of these projects individually. Would you have an estimate of the overall savings? I know that there are application fees and fees with the bond rating agencies and fees with the financial institutions each individual time.
Yeah, I think we estimated that if we were to do this, if we were to do all the program or all the projects at one time and receive all the funding up front, it would cost us, it was at least $20 million, if not more.
In all those fees?
All those fees and interest, because you start paying principal and interest right at the start, where with the draw program,
Right,
we don't have to pay any principal until we actually convert this to fixed financing. And we're not paying on the full amount till we use it.
right.
So we could have this money available but not use it for 6 months. So we're not paying anything until that first draw happens.
So that would be comparable to if you were going to build a $500,000 home and you went to the bank and borrowed $500,000 and they gave it all to you right then, and then you had to use that to build the house, you'd have to pay principal and interest throughout the entire term that the house was under construction,
Correct.
as opposed to a construction loan where you just advance the money as the bills come due for building the house.
Correct.
And so if we were not to do a draw program, and looking at the items on this list, of course, we've had extensive conversation with the school system about the need for seats. So we've got 2 elementary schools. The other things that I see on here, Concord High School HVAC replacement, Weddington Hills Elementary School HVAC replacement, and then several roofs. I mean, the alternative would be that we would just have to do each of those individually, and
Correct. And part of the issue becomes the logistics of it. So if you go out for, say, fixed financing right off the bat, you have to have your contracts already in place. So there's a timing to that. If you try to do all this at one time, it'd be very difficult to get all the contracts in place, all the contracts secured. LGC, you have to fill your application out a month in advance. So there's a timing aspect of getting all that lined up. And then plus, you're making the assumption that every one of these projects is going to start on the same day.
right.
You could be paying on one of these projects that for whatever reason may not start for 6 months or a year from now, and you're paying on that with, because you financed that upfront.
Right. And as it stands now, once this draw program is approved, then we can time these projects according to the availability of contractors, the
Correct.
urgency of the need. You know, if you had HVAC replacement at Weddington Hills, scheduled second, and another one scheduled first, and you had a catastrophic failure, you could
That is correct.
realign the
Correct.
priorities
Yes,
of that over a 2-year period of time,
correct.
right?
Yeah, 2 to 3 years. We're gonna do the draw program for 36 months if we wanted to extend it that far. Which, of course, if for some reason all these projects took off at one time and it is, most of them are completed within 2 years, we could go out for fixed financing then.
Right.
It also gives us time to look at the market.
Right.
And watch what it's doing.
So at the end of 2 years, if interest rates are not favorable, we could extend that,
Correct. Ideally, another 12 months.
right?
Yes.
Great. Thank you for answering those questions. All of finance can be very complicated. Perhaps it doesn't appear that way to you. But any other questions or comments? All right.
All right,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
sir. Okay, we move now to discussion items for action. First up is Department of Social Services Energy Programs Outreach Plan, and we're happy to have Laura Light with us for that item. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So I'm here to present our annual Cabarrus County Energy Programs Outreach Plan for fiscal year '25. So the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, also known as LIHEAP, is a federally funded block grant program, and it's comprised of 3 different programs. Lots of acronyms here, sorry, I apologize in advance. The Crisis Intervention Program, also known as CIP, the Low Income Energy Assistance Program, also known as LEAP, as well as the Weatherization Program. So the purpose of this plan is to assure that all eligible households are made aware of the assistance available through all of these programs. This is done with the help of an outreach planning committee, which encompasses a variety of community agencies, which should be included in your packet. This committee meets twice per year, once in October for outreach planning related to LEAP season, and then again in April just to wrap up, review the outcomes of the LEAP season, and just to plan for outreach for our summer activities. This committee creates the opportunity for county-level collaboration in order to discuss the plan, how effective it is in reaching the county residents, to be able to inform them of the services provided through these energy programs. This year, to maximize the success of all of these programs, we plan to take on-site applications. We're hoping to be able to reach some of our households with members with children under the age of 5, aged 60 and older, and those who are disabled by going to them in the community and being able to take on-site applications at various apartment complexes, Lunch Plus Club programs, Meals on Wheels, just to kind of name a few. As in years past, DSS plans to work with our county's communication and outreach department to assist us with preparation of outreach materials, our messaging, and the distribution of information to be publicized. So I just thank you for your time and allowing me to share a little bit about our plan for the upcoming energy season.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Laura? I certainly want to compliment you and the others that were responsible for putting together this committee.
Thank you.
I mean, that is, I think, about as comprehensive and inclusive of faith-based organizations, volunteer organizations. You mentioned Meals on Wheels. That's pretty comprehensive group of folks. So
Thank you.
compliments.
Thank you. And happy if you guys ever have any other agencies that you would like us to reach out to in the future, we'll be happy to do that as well and
Great.
add them to our committee.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, from Emergency Medical Services, Cannon Grant Funds. Happy to have Jimmy and Kara with us for that item. Welcome.
Afternoon.
Good evening. We just come actually for Chief Clark to give you some specifics on 2 grants we have received and just get everything aligned with them being deposited into or going to the correct line item through budget amendments for us to be able to utilize the spending. So Chief Clark will take it from here.
Yes, just a brief overview for the first one, the Canon grant. We received about $35,000 for some pediatric initiative items. 2 of the most expensive being the hand-heavy bags, which those will help organize our pediatric equipment a little bit better than what we currently have. And that's an ongoing program that we have. And then the next big ticket item would be a restraint system. We currently have a pediatric restraint system, but we recently got the new stretchers. They work on those, but you have to use an adapter. Takes a little bit longer, so we'd like to streamline that. And then there's some other training and some minor equipment in there to help our pediatric patients, as well as help our EMTs and our paramedics treat them a little bit better. Any questions?
Questions? I tell you what, most other communities do not realize, I mean, I don't think we realize how fortunate we are to have an organization like the Cannon Foundation. I mean, this is not the first time and not the first department that we hear from them. So, you know, to the public, thank you to the Cannon Foundation for making these things available to us, which the alternative to that would be taxpayer paying for those items. So it's truly is a benefit, and I think you have another one to follow.
Yes, we do. So we'll move into the race cars grant. So that is part of the ongoing race cars trial that we are in for, we're in year 3, I believe. We're looking to use about $7,000 to utilize challenge coins to give to those who help with a cardiac arrest, whether it's a save or not. So they understand that we appreciate their efforts. Some CPR cards to continue our community CPR efforts, and then some PR items to get ready for our fall festivals, Halloween, as well as the fair. So some sunglasses, stress relievers, and the new thing of slap bracelets. So.
Great.
And I think, if I'm right, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think there's 22,000 available in that
Yes.
grant now, and this is just going to be spending 7 of that, or 6,800, something
Right.
around those lines.
Right, and so that kind of ties in with the folks that we see at the Hearts and Heroes
Correct.
Yes.
event every year, which is another excellent
Right.
program.
Yes. And we'll have the challenge coins at that event as well
Yeah.
to hand out.
Great. Questions or comments for Jimmy and Kara?
Thank you.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, next up is Facilities Design and Construction. We're happy to have Michael Miller for that item. And Jason Harris. Welcome.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having us. Good afternoon. Also attending virtually are Kevin Turner and Maya Labrador with our design team to help with the presentation, and Mr. Harris here from Mr. Construction. So on March 18th, 2024, the board approved the guaranteed maximum price number 1, also known as GMP number 1. That amendment to the pre-construction contract with Messer Construction for the Behavioral Health Care Center. GMP number 1 was an early procurement package for long lead time items, just to ensure that that lead time would not negatively impact the overall schedule. So now we've received bids for GMP number 2, which is an early site package that includes areas of work such as site clearing, site work, erosion control, the building pad preparation, site utilities, footings and foundation, concrete slab and the structural steel erection. Anybody see anything?
That's right. Yep. And a lot of that's just based on timing. We need to get this stuff rolling. So once we take the larger package to market, we'll be able to hit the ground running from that building pad point. The mill orders for steel are still running 10 to 12 weeks. So that's the real driver. Site work allows us to keep the work moving and meets the ask of this board, which was to get this building moving as quickly as possible.
And so those bids total $6,767,785 for GMP number 2. And so the requested action of the board is for a motion to approve GMP number 2 and authorize the county manager to execute the contract change order to the existing contract between Cabarrus County and Messer Construction, subject to review by the county attorney. And the handout I gave you is the breakdown of GMP 2. I attached that to the agenda, but it was late this afternoon, so in the event you didn't see it, you've got a hard copy as well. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Hey, Michael, this is Lynn. Could you make sure that I get a copy of the handout, put in my mailbox in the county manager's office?
Yes, sir, I'll do that this afternoon.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Questions for Michael or Jason? And so this is actual construction scheduled to begin
In August.
in August.
Yep. So we've issued letters of intent to these subcontractors and awaiting this commission's approval and ultimately the signed change order from the county. We'll execute those subcontracts with those contractors who are the low apparents. And we have a schedule that shows us starting out there the first week of August.
Great, excellent. I feel like 3 years late in starting, but that's probably not. More of an exaggeration, but we really were awarded those funds by the state for this project. Has it been 3 years? 3 years ago? Yeah. So really, really excited to see that come out of the ground. I think it's going to make a huge impact on our entire region in the behavioral health space. So thank you both.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I think you have the next item as well.
Yes, sir, I do. I've got the same group helping me, the Human Experience Design Team, attending virtually, and Mr. Harris here in person. So this is about preferred brand alternates for the behavioral health care facility. North Carolina General Statute 133-3 requires performance standards to be used when specifying products. The statute also allows preferred brands of equipment to be bid as an alternate on the Cabarrus County Behavioral Health Care Facility, provided that the performance standards were approved by the Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners. And in order to be improved, the alternate must either provide a cost savings or maintain or improve a functioning process or system affected by the brand alternate. Approval is requested for the preferred brand alternates list that's attached to your agenda. And just for example, some of those type products are things such as ligature-resistant metal fasteners, impact-resistant interior doors, HVAC controls that will work with the control system that we already use, and fire alarm systems that match systems in other county buildings. So things like that's what we're talking about. A requested action of the board is for a motion to approve the preferred brand alternate list for equipment for the Cabarrus County Behavioral Health Care Facility. And to be happy to try to answer any questions you guys may have. This is something we do on pretty much all of our building projects.
And not that, that it would make a huge impact on me or that I would understand it. I don't think that got attached to our agenda
Oh, I'm sorry.
either.
I can send that to you.
The previous agenda as well. Both of them.
Okay.
Yeah. Questions for Michael or Jason on that item? And I think we've talked about this on other projects
Yes, sir.
before.
We have.
So it's pretty standard kind of thing, right?
Yes, sir. I've got the list here that I thought I attached. I can read through if you're interested, or I can just send it to you.
Yeah, if you can send it unless somebody wants,
Okay.
yeah.
Apologize
All
about
right.
that.
Very good. We appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you. Okay, from Finance, fiscal year 2025 CIP budget, and Jim Howden is back with us for that item.
Good afternoon again. Yes, I think everybody's aware, we record and track all the county's capital projects and the pay-go projects within the county's capital project fund and the school capital project fund. So this budget amendment allows me to record all the budgets for the projects in those two funds for fiscal year 2025 and allows us to track them. So I'm just asking the board to approve the budget amendment and the corresponding budget ordinances for both of those project funds.
And so most of these items on this list have already been
All of them have been approved as part of the budget.
Right.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, I waited for the budget to be approved, and then, I think
Gotcha.
last year we tried to do it the same night, and it just seemed easier to do it at the next
Right.
meeting.
Okay, questions for Jim? All right.
Thank you very much.
sir. Okay, next up, item 4.7 from Planning, North Carolina Department of Transportation request for updated resolution. We're happy to have Susie Morris with us for that item.
Good afternoon. This is a very simple request. NCDOT had a request to add Grayhawk Court, which is located in Fieldstone subdivision, to their maintenance system. As they were reviewing the request, they found that the last time a resolution had been sent over from the county was in 2001. They now have a new policy where those resolutions need to be updated every 5 years. I've asked for that information from Raleigh, but Division 10 staff hasn't been able to get their hands on it just yet. I'm hoping maybe to have that statutory information or policy information for you at your next meeting. So essentially, because we are not in the road business, we ask DOT to take the roads over on, and to review them on the commissioner's behalf. So essentially, that is what the resolution says, and they're just asking that you adopt a new resolution to have on file for the next 5 years. And then if the policy doesn't change, this would be something that we would need to do every 5 years.
Excellent. Questions for Susie? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, item 4.8 from Tax Administration, annual settlement and order authorizing collection. David Thrift with us. Welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So North Carolina General Statute 105-373 calls for the annual settlement of the tax collector. I prepared a list of delinquent 2023 taxes on real property and a list of delinquent 2023 taxes on personal property. Those lists are available for review in the Tax Administration Office before you as a summary of those outstanding balances by jurisdiction. Real property outstanding is $1,575,801. Personal property outstanding, $598,901, for a total outstanding of $2,174,702. So also, General Statute 105-373, I'm providing a list of tax bills on personal property that, through our efforts, we have deemed to be uncollectible. This list currently comprises 35 bills amounting to about $23,257. So every effort has been made to collect on these. Those efforts have been fully exhausted, and I'm requesting that these tax bills be placed on the insolvents list. Just for your memory, that insolvents list is where we place those uncollectible bills. They will stay on that list for 3 years until we write those off after that period of time. So, very similar to our write-off process with real estate, which is after a 10-year period. So. I'm also providing a list of minimal refunds that we've collected and kept that were under $15. There's around 175 totaling just over $900. So we're in the process now of analyzing that list to see if there are 2024 accounts that we can apply those funds to. If we cannot apply those funds, we will escheat those to the state.
So this gentleman that is entitled to a $1.12 tax refund, if he knew about it and came in, could he get it?
He could request that, certainly.
Yeah.
And that's, the policy we have is anything under a $15 refund.
Right.
It's not, we just automatically don't mail that out. It's certainly available. If the taxpayer's here, that's an easy exchange. If they
Right.
request that, or if they request that in writing, we'll provide that.
Right. And the-
Otherwise, it's part of a process. We just apply it to their next year's account, or we send that to our process of SG to the state.
And so these are people that don't have an account to apply it to next year.
We're working through the process now. We hold those funds for an entire year in case they do request them. So we haven't applied these anywhere. This is what we've collected over the past year. Now, at the end of the fiscal year, we'll start applying those to the new 2024 bills if they have them.
Yeah.
And so that's a process that's in place for.
So when it goes to the escheat fund, is that the one where you can go online and so their name would be on?
That's correct. So then
They
they'll still
could
have the
file-
potential to file and get that from the state. It just keeps
Right.
us from having to hold and track those funds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Questions for David?
What, the folks that haven't paid, whether it's real estate, personal property tax, that they haven't paid, and, we went through all the efforts to collect and exhausted all of those avenues. What happens, let's say that folks moved out of Cabarrus County, moved to the West Coast, 10 years later, they come back and buy real estate in Cabarrus County, then is there something in the system that would alert us that there had been a previous outstanding tax bill, or if it's written off, then that person's deleted out of the system and there's never, I know
Sure.
this instance is probably rare, but I'm sure it's happened.
Once it's written off, there's no further action we can take. So that's the reason we write those off. For real estate, it's there's a 10-year statute of limitations on when we can take action to collect. So after that 10-year period, we're not allowed to take any action from a collection standpoint, which is why at that point we write those off, because we don't want to just keep carrying those in the books for something we can't actually go after. If someone were to come and voluntarily pay those, we still have those available to be paid, and we'll collect on those, and we do collect on things that are older than 10 years old, but that is rare, certainly. So.
Okay, just curious.
And the personal property that we've added to that insolvents list are accounts that we can tell will not kind of reestablish themselves. They're businesses that have gone out of business that won't establish as another one. It wouldn't be someone that moved and would come back, because someone moves to California, it just may take us longer to get a hold of them, but we certainly would still be in contact with them. And so North Carolina 105-321 also then provides for the order to collect next year's tax receipts. Excuse me. So provided a list and levy of the FY25 real and personal property taxes and the penalties that we intend to bill. And would ask that you accept the tax collector's settlement statement, as well as a motion to approve the order to collect in accordance with 105-321.
Questions for David? So now that the budget's been approved, when will the tax bills go out?
We are currently in the process of creating those tax bills now. We will send those off. Our goal is to mail those towards the end of July. I think our current scheduled date's about July 26th. There's a lot of steps to take place before we publish that date, but that's our intent, is to get them out as soon as possible towards the end of July. Those tax bills will have an official date of September 1st that they're due, and they won't be past due until January 5th, like all property tax bills.
Right. Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And we move to item 4.9, energy temporary construction easement request, and happy to have Kelly Sifford for that item.
Thank you. Dominion Energy has requested a temporary construction easement on Deal Street, which is part of the senior center property. It connects out to Deal Street as well. Really talking about a very small area to get their construction workers off of the road while they're out there working. They're offering us $500 for that. There should be one attached to the agenda item. It's literally like the first 5 feet or so on the, along the,
Everybody familiar with that?
yeah, it's about 5 feet off the road frontage, so it's really just a very, very small area.
Okay, questions or comments? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, item 4.10, opioid settlement. We're happy to have Dr. Elise Pugh for that item.
Good evening. As has been mentioned at recent meetings, a recent settlement was rendered with Kroger Company. So this will add to our overall disbursement of funds related to the opioid settlement. This resolution and the accompanying document, which is currently being reviewed by our county attorney, would allow us to accept those funds. If all 100 local governments, in addition to the municipalities, sign on to this agreement, our disbursement would be roughly $647,000 in addition to the roughly $22 million that we're already receiving. And that $647 does include the allocation for the City of Concord, because as you know, City of Concord kind of delegated responsibility to the county, so it's just kind of all in one pot of funding. So that's what this resolution is related to. Any questions that I can answer for you?
Do you know how many other cases are in the works?
There is one that's pending, and Rich might know a little bit more about it than I do, but it's with Purdue. So that's another wave that may come in the future, but they are just, the Supreme Court rendered their decision, and so now they have to go back to the negotiation table to determine exactly how much the settlement would be.
Right.
So there's other ones that are out there still pending, but more information will be coming about those.
That's probably the biggest one that's out there. It's, you may have seen it in the paper over the weekend, where the Supreme Court decided to not approve the settlement in bankruptcy court with the Sackler family. What they were going to do, all the members of that family who owned Purdue Pharma, were going to pay $6.5 billion of their own funds into the court to be distributed to all the different local governments. And what they were asking for in response to that is a complete release from everyone, so that their liability would be established and no one could come back after them for anything more. And the Supreme Court said that under bankruptcy law, they couldn't do that without having all the plaintiffs that have filed all these lawsuits agree to it, which they did not have at that point. So basically, they rejected that settlement. So as Dr. Pugh said, it'll go back to bankruptcy court. Probably they'll work out something different, because the original settlement was only going to be $4 billion, and so they threw in another $2.5 billion to try to make this thing, work. But apparently that wasn't acceptable completely either. So it'll be worked out in some way at some point, but it may take another year or two for that one to come down. That's probably the biggest of the bankruptcy filings that were done by a lot of the manufacturers. So there's that still out there. There's also some additional distributors that were much smaller than the original 3 that were settled in the first wave. There's also some smaller manufacturers that are still out there. And I got a memo last week that said that they're going to add all those companies to the lawsuit, not just our lawsuit, but all the ones around the country that are being handled through the federal court in Cleveland. So there'll be some additional waves of these funds that'll be coming in. We just don't know when it'll occur. And so that's that part of it. Now, as far as this Kroger settlement, there's a memo, a MOU that was agreed upon by the NCACC and the Attorney General's office as to how the funds that come into North Carolina for many of these settlements would be divided. And that was, if you recall, 85% to the local governments and 15% to the state. It's actually, the reason that was done was because if you remember the Golden Leaf settlement with tobacco companies, the state kept all that money. None of it came to any local government, and a lot of the issues with that were being handled by local government. So there was an attempt not to have that happen again. As you may know, that with the Golden Leaf Fund, they've got it set up that you have to apply for a grant from it, so it's like a grant program, and they're not really that generous with giving those grants out. So this whole thing was an attempt to handle the whole matter differently, and it really was a great settlement for local government, 85% of it. So the percentage that comes to Cabarrus, and we're, as she said, Concord has assigned their percentage to the county since we deal with those issues. But that percentage is fixed in that memo, so it'll be the same thing. So that's why she can tell you exactly what the amount would be, and that'll carry through to the next 2 or 3 waves of settlements that come through.
And kudos to the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, because they were instrumental in negotiating this deal, which is far, far, far more favorable to counties than most other states have received. And for anybody that might be watching the meeting or has a question about the Sackler family and Purdue Pharma, I would strongly encourage you to watch I think it's a documentary called Dope Sick that is available on Netflix, if I remember correctly, which does an excellent job of not only explaining how this came to be, but also a lot about people that are affected by it and how they became addicted to these opioids. And I think the more educated you become on understanding those, you realize these are a lot of people that unwittingly fell into this addiction. It's not people that were necessarily taking drugs for recreational purposes. It's consequences of surgeries and things of that nature. It's pretty enlightening, but I think everybody should watch that to get a better understanding. And I know you've got the next item about our strategic funding, but that program is set up so that it is flexible to accommodate any additional, this settlement and any additional settlements that might come in the future.
Correct. So our payment schedule will just change as we bring on more settlement agreements. But the bulk of the money has already been established, right? In terms of the first and second waves. These other ones are smaller in scale. And as Rich mentioned, the Purdue one is probably the largest one that's still pending out there.
And we were on the forefront of all this litigation, Cabarrus County was. We were one of the first ones that jumped into it.
Right.
Yeah, and I think this came up at a recent meeting, so I'll just reiterate this information because I think there was a question in terms of how decisions were made in terms of how the funding was distributed across the 100 local governments. But the formula that the state used was based on the number of pills dispersed. So to the commissioner's point, these are individuals who are prescribed opioid medications by their physician or some other prescriber. number of overdose deaths, and the number of people suffering from opioid use disorder. So that was the formula that was used in terms of making the determination of how much money each local government or municipality would receive.
Okay, any questions on this item regarding the Kroger settlement before we move on to item 4.11? Okay, well, you've got the next one as well.
Great, so as you all recall, you graciously approved our funding plan, which is a 3 to 5 year funding plan, right? And within that funding plan, we have designated services related to about 7 million of the 22 million thus far. So this item is just the resolution that ties to that strategic funding plan that you approved last month in June. And so just to reiterate the strategies that were included in our strategic funding plan, and as you all know, this was part of a collaborative strategic planning process. We got input from really all walks of life across Cabarrus County, stakeholders, partners, people with lived experience. We had a community survey. We had over 400 individuals who responded to that community survey and so on. And so the strategies that we will fund in this first 3 to 5 year wave include treating opioid use disorders, supporting people in treatment and recovery, connecting people who need help to the help they need, addressing the needs of criminal justice involved persons, so for instance, persons who are detained in our detention facility, addressing the needs of pregnant or parenting women and their families, including babies with neonatal abstinence syndrome, preventing misuse of opioids, which is great for us in terms of disrupting the pattern of use with future generations, preventing overdose deaths and other harm reduction strategies, and then leadership planning and coordination. And with leadership planning and coordination, our intent is to hire a project manager, and that person will be responsible for managing these funds on an ongoing basis. Not just the funds in collaboration with Jim and his team, but also the projects themselves. Any questions?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next item, 4.12, appointments to boards and committees. You all have that in your agenda and received a email on those as well. Does anybody have any questions or comments about any of those appointments? Okay, if not, we'll move to the next item, which is North Carolina Association of County Commissioners legislative goals. And I will just read this summary. Every 2 years, the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners members engage in a process to determine the legislative goals that are in the best interest of counties. The NCACC goal-setting process begins in August of even-numbered years and consists of 5 stages, beginning with the solicitation of county proposals and ending with the adoption of the legislative agenda at the Legislative Goals Conference. The submission deadline for legislative goals is August 23rd, 2024. And goals submitted by or before the deadline will be referred to a steering committee for review and consideration. So we're open to discuss anything that anyone might have that they feel like should be on that list. We've got some time. We also have the month of August, our work session, probably our regular meeting as well, before that deadline, if you come up with additional items. Does anybody have anything they would like to discuss at this point?
I mean, I read through what was attached, and I know each year it seems to be similar, so I agree with what's in there. I mean, it all makes sense for looking out what's for the best interest of the county, but, or for counties in general. So I don't see anything that sticks out to me that should be changed or added.
It's a pretty exhaustive process. It's, having served on some of those steering committees, it's always interesting to, it's important for every county, because the things that some of the counties in the eastern part of the state put as their number one goal are not the same as what a rapid growing county like Cabarrus might include. So they discussed those pretty heavily at those steering committees, and then for the Legislative Goals Conference, I think Commissioner Shue has been our representative the last couple of those, our voting delegate, but they really discussed through those issues. So it's very educational to hear the comments that come from different parts of the state.
If there are opportunities, if you want to serve on one of those review committees, you can do that as well.
Yes.
The categories are pretty much defined, but if you want to sit on it, and if you don't, actually, it's not an official member, you can actually listen into the conversations. It's pretty interesting. As Chairman Morris says, you can start to see the divide of the smaller counties and the larger counties, and the needs and the wants. And as we get to the point where you guys vote, those desperate, the goals of each of the smaller counties are totally different than the ones that they've had. So you see that divide and how it didn't used to be that much with counties, but it's starting to it's really starting like the cities do as well. So the large cities versus the small ones, their goals are totally different. So it's important to be there and voice your opinion if you have an opportunity. And you don't have to, you can submit them electronically as well to the association. So.
Yeah, it's kind of like the comment that I frequently make when you sit down at the table with a number of representatives from other counties, and the conversation usually leads to what's the biggest issue that you're dealing with in your county? And my comment usually is capital construction for schools. You know, our school population continues to grow, and you know, we just have a hard time keeping up with providing enough seats. And there's always somebody on the opposite side of the table that says, gosh, wish we had that problem in our county. Because our population is shrinking, and we're having to consolidate schools and close schools and things of that nature. So it's very different all across the state. Anything else on that? I'm sure we'll talk about it some more. If not, then we'll go to item 4.14, voting delegate designation for the NCACC's 117th Annual Conference. And of course, we heard about that with that excellent presentation from our youth commissioner at the beginning of the meeting. The dates on that I do not see in our agenda item, but it's in August, right? And so we need to, 8th through the 10th, August 8th through the 10th. So I don't know which of you plan to attend that conference, but we need to designate one voting delegate and one alternate voting delegate. What's the deadline on that? So we need to do it now, yeah.
We have until our regular meeting.
Until our regular meeting. So if anybody would like to volunteer to be that voting delegate, I plan to attend. I don't mind doing it, but I'm happy to step aside if somebody else is interested.
I don't want to speak for everyone, but I think we'd be okay with you being our designee.
Okay, and we need an alternate as well, if anybody else plans to attend.
I don't know whether I'm going to attend or not, so I don't want to commit.
Okay, well,
But if you plan to be there, then we know we're covered.
yeah, I don't know what well, we can check it out. Okay, next up is approval of the regular meeting agenda. You all have a copy of that before you. I don't think we have taken any action tonight that would alter that in any way. So Unless somebody has something they would like to change, I would entertain a motion to approve the regular meeting agenda and schedule the necessary public hearing. Okay, we have a motion. Thank you, sir. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. And we do have need of a closed session tonight. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to go into closed session as authorized by North Carolina General Statute 143-318, 11A and 5 regarding the acquisition of real property. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes, and we are now in closed session. I think we'll probably stay in this room so Commissioner Shue can continue with us, and we thank you all for attending.